Latest news. Just in, Chicago Cubs on high alert. What Cubs fans were hoping would not happen has just happened, and this time it's not good news. But before I tell you this bombshell, my fellow Cubby, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you can always stay up to date with the latest Chicago Cubs news. Cubby fans, it has just been reported that our pitcher Ben Brown has suffered a new and concerning setback during his recovery in Arizona, and what looked like a clear path toward his return has suddenly fallen apart. The 26-year-old right-hander was forced to immediately stop his rehabilitation activities after experiencing sharp pain in his neck again. Brown is now making an urgent return to Chicago, where he is expected to undergo further medical examinations to determine the severity of the problem. And this completely changes the Cubs' situation. The news is especially concerning because Brown wasn't simply another available option on the roster. Before the injury, he had been putting up numbers capable of making Chicago's bullpen and pitching staff an even more dangerous weapon during the most important stretch of the season. His 1.85 ERA this season shows exactly how significant this potential loss could be for the Cubs. The concern increased following a simulated game held last Tuesday. It was during that activity that Brown felt the pain again, forcing the coaching staff to halt his rehabilitation process. According to manager Craig Counsell, the issue was serious enough to put the player's return plan on hold, at least for now. And here is one of the most concerning parts for Cubs fans. Brown's entire minor league rehabilitation schedule has been canceled indefinitely. In other words, there is currently no clear date for his next step. The expectation had been for the pitcher to gradually progress through his rehabilitation, building up his workload and getting closer to the level needed to help the Cubs during the most important part of the schedule. But this setback has completely changed the script. Now, the absolute priority is finding out exactly what is going on. Brown will undergo examinations in Chicago, and only after those evaluations will the team be able to determine the next steps. Until then, any prediction about his return remains extremely uncertain. For a team fighting for a strong position in the National League playoff race, the timing could not be more delicate. The calendar waits for no one. The race for a postseason spot is getting more intense, and every game is becoming increasingly important. In this situation, potentially losing a pitcher who has posted a 1.85 ERA this season would be much more than simply losing another player from the roster. It would be a loss of depth. It would be a loss of quality. And most importantly, it would happen at exactly the moment when the Cubs need reliable arms the most. The bullpen is already being pushed hard, and another significant absence could force Craig Counsell to redistribute responsibilities, increase the workload of other pitchers and find alternative solutions to get through the final weeks of the season. That is exactly why Brown's situation is causing so much concern. Fans look at the numbers and understand what Chicago could be losing. A 1.85 ERA doesn't happen by accident. It is the kind of performance that builds confidence and gives a manager an extremely valuable option in high-pressure situations. On a team dreaming of October baseball, having pitchers capable of protecting close leads can make all the difference. And Brown was becoming exactly that kind of piece. Now, however, the situation has become a huge question mark. The big question hanging over Chicago is simple. Will Brown still be able to return in time to take part in the Cubs' playoff push? Right now, nobody can guarantee it. The setback happened just as fans were beginning to see the light at the end of the tunnel. The expectation of seeing Brown back on the mound has now been replaced by medical examinations, concern and uncertainty. And there is also an emotional factor that cannot be ignored. For many Cubs fans, this situation brings back some very unpleasant memories from the recent past. The ghost of 2024 seems to be haunting Wrigley Field once again. That feeling that a promising season could be put at risk precisely when everything begins to matter the most. Of course, there is still no confirmation that Brown will definitely miss the rest of the season. It would be premature to make that claim before the new medical examinations. But it would also be impossible to ignore the seriousness of the warning signs. The coaching staff had to stop his rehabilitation. His minor league schedule has been canceled. The player is returning to Chicago for further evaluation. And all of this is happening as the Cubs enter a critical stage of the season. Now, Cubs fans will have to wait for the results of those examinations. Meanwhile, Craig Counsell and the Cubs front office will have a difficult task ahead, preparing the roster for the possibility of having to move forward without one of the arms that has impressed the most this season. And that is exactly where this story could become even more important. If Brown is able to recover quickly, the Cubs could gain a massive reinforcement for the final stretch of the season. But if this setback turns out to be more serious than expected, Chicago will have to find a solution immediately. Because October is not going to wait. The playoff race is heating up. And one thing is already clear. The Chicago Cubs have received one of the biggest scares possible at exactly the moment when they can least afford to lose another important piece. Now all eyes are on Chicago. Everyone wants to know the results of Brown's examinations. Everyone wants to know whether Ben Brown will be able to put on the Cubs uniform again this season. And most importantly, everyone wants to find out whether this setback will be just another obstacle on his road back. or the blow that could completely change Chicago's plans for the final stretch. The alarm bells are officially ringing, and Cubs fans have every reason to keep a very close eye on what happens next. And now I want to hear from you, Cubs fans. What do you think about this situation involving Ben Brown? Do you believe he can still return in time to help Chicago in the playoff race, or does this setback completely change the team's plans? Yes or no? Don't leave without giving us your opinion. Your participation makes every discussion even more interesting. And while you're here, subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for all the latest Chicago Cubs news.